Welcome, innovators, business owners, entrepreneurs, technology experts, academia, government R&D communities, and other members of the North Carolina innovation ecosystem. This is Defense Technology Talks, hosted by the North Carolina Defense Technology Transition Office, or NC DEFTECH. In this podcast, we will showcase various technologies with local and national experts who aim to solve complex national security problems. In the coming weeks, we will highlight North Carolinians with potential to, or those that have positively contributed to enhancing the capabilities of our warfighters, law enforcement, and first responders. We will also feature government leaders in research and development who have helped shape the future in this domain. These podcasts are just one of the many free services provided by the North Carolina government to assist the North Carolina innovation ecosystem to thrive and provide solutions for our nation. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Rob Robinson with the North Carolina Defense Technology Transition Office. I'm joined with my colleague Bob Burton, and we are here to cover the Irregular Warfare Technical Support Direction. Some of you guys may have remembered them from another title. They have been renamed, and this is like about a year old, but their process is still the same. And that's what we're here to do, is to kind of give you a quick overview of what IWTSD does, what they're looking for, and how you can take the opportunity, as always, to get involved with this government organization and have the best chance of winning. But without further ado, I'll pass it over to Bob. Thanks.
All right. Every week we come to you with opportunities and education about different government organizations and the problems that they're trying to solve. We talk about entering into the problem space, getting left of the requirement. And IWTSD, formerly Countering Terrorism Technical Support Office, does that quite regularly as they fall under ASD SOLIC, or Assistant Secretary of Defense, Special Operations, Low Intensity Conflict. What do? Well, IWTSD shapes innovation to prevent and prevail in irregular warfare. They find the innovation, get ahead of the problem in order to prevail in the irregular warfare space. Countering terrorism falls under that umbrella. And then IWTSD identifies, develops capabilities for DoD and interagency customers to conduct irregular warfare against all adversaries, including great powers, competitors, and non-state actors. So basically, everything inside the national defense strategy or national security strategy and other national documents, these guys get after it. They get after those capabilities when they're early, when they're young, when the requirement is new, before it hits an operational needs statement, ideally. That means they've already encountered an adversary that has a potentially leap ahead technology that hasn't been planned for or predicted or countered, even worse. So we'll talk just a little bit about the IWTSD, their upcoming industry day, and really why you should attend. You can go through their website. We'll put these links in the description. And then we'll talk about their bids process, essentially similar to sam.gov. But this goes back to, and we'll talk more about it during this, how you've got to be prepared to do business with the federal government, because there are organizations that are moving quickly, who have rapid contract mechanisms, have real dollars allocated to get after innovation, in this case, to shape, prevent, prevail in irregular warfare. So the technical support working groups, or TISWIGs, or the subgroups of IWTSD. Every organization listening to this podcast, this discussion, you should go into these subgroups and figure out what it is that you do, the solution you provide, and which subgroup you can best support. If you can support several subgroups, fantastic. That means you can support several submissions. Now, when we'll talk about the industry, Jay, in just a minute, but they're going to publish a broad agency announcement, specifically what they're looking for, what they're going to fund in this coming year. We'll talk about their business cycle just a little bit, and this business cycle has already begun. This is the next phase of the next step in that business cycle, because the requirements were brought to the emerging and rapidly emerging requirements have come from the DoD stakeholders, interagency partners, really those champions who are experiencing a capability gap at their own level. We're seeing a lot of warfighter up innovation, and that's what this organization does for primarily special operations and others in the irregular warfare space. Of course, there are other government agencies. I've been to these meetings before. You're going to meet some great folks from the U.S. Marshals, Border Patrol, across all the services, mostly in the special operations space, but all services can submit if they have a irregular warfare type mission. And as we kind of shift out of a Afghanistan, Iraq kind of posture, that countering insurgency posture, and move into the great powers space, I think the need is more incredible because of the foreign investments in advanced technologies. So, Rob, you want to talk just a little bit about, why it's important for organizations like IWTSD to get into that problem space to rapidly prototype and then transition those technologies?
Roger. And really what it is IWTSD has a different
Go ahead and
mission.
check your mic, please.
IWTSD has a different mission focus, and their mission focus is on irregular warfare. So they're not focusing primarily on conventional operations. We have a whole nother group of cross-functional teams and a whole other group of government apparatus that are looking for the conventional units. These guys are specifically for low intensity conflict. So when you think about low intensity conflict, you're thinking about what's going on in Ukraine. Some of the incidents that we're seeing that are going on elsewhere in the world, those other hotspots. We're going to have a follow-up with General Tovo. So for those of you guys that were available on the 25th, we actually got a conversation with him about the future of warfare and what are some of the hotspots that people just aren't looking at. And so that's where IWTSD comes in. They're looking at those areas that the big army or that the regionally aligned forces in the Department of Defense are not looking at, because low intensity conflict can happen anywhere. So their technologies, although can transition into a much larger apparatus for the conventional force, it's specifically designed for those organizations that are operating with that much smaller footprint internationally in foreign countries doing that foreign internal defense mission, or it may be embassy support or any other of the type of special operations missions that an ODA could potentially have to enhance future warfare or just influence operations that the military is trying to conduct. But again, the important part of it is finding out where you fit within the problem space gives you the best opportunity to win. Back to you, Bob.
So we'll talk a little bit about the just a couple of the subgroups. Again, go through here. This is just meant to give you an overview of the organization, what it is that they do, how their business process works, and then to really key in on Industry Day coming up on March 7th, where you'll take a trip up to Arlington and actually meet with these program managers for these different subgroups. So we'll just take a look at advanced analytics. We're seeing a lot of AI integration, smart systems, smart battlefield control, Internet of Battlefield things. All of those are really important. They all require data and analytics. So their focus areas are, and again, you find where you fit into each one of these groups, because you're going to look for their BAA, and I'll show you briefly the broad agency announcement from last year, but they've probably solved some of those problems. If those problems weren't solved last year, then they're going to be reintroduced because they're still a priority for defense departments or other interagency partners. So big data, algorithm-based tools for strategic and operational levels of analysis. You can read through here, but of course, it's integrating artificial intelligence, machine learning algorithms, big data, cloud computing. And if you do any of this to help them support anticipatory, basically the predictive analytics, foresight, and decision-making at the operational and strategic levels. So if you do any work in that space, you may want to contact the advanced analytics subgroup. Any battlefield analytics at the edge. You can read through this about developing and integrating means for distilling tactically, operationally useful metrics and analysis from information gathered on the battlefield, giving warfighter informational advantages, real-time or near-time updates that do not necessarily require connectivity to the cloud. It's all about decision-making, offloading cognitive load on the warfighters. And Rob, you want to talk about that, the importance of analytics and data at the edge for our warfighting advantage?
Yeah, there's so many different technologies that are going into analytics on the edge. And edge computing is just basically objective coverage. We talk about it, we give it a new term, but at the end of the day, we want to have processing power as close as possible to the objective as we can give it to our operator. So the ability to process facial recognition or object recognition or even do signals detection closer to the objective is important. And we want those solutions to be man portable, particularly if you're looking for IWTSD. They need to be man portable, they need to be low power and have long battery life. So there are a lot of combinations that go into that. So considering how you would bring those technologies to the fore is important, because most people are thinking, hey, I have this big, huge server farm, giant server suite, data center. Yes, that's important because all of that will be supporting the operations that you're working on. However, at the end of the day, ultimately what the organization needs is the ability to have that compute closer to the objective to solve the operator's problems while they're in contact potentially. And so that's why smaller form factor and edge computing is very, very important. Yeah, you can do a lot with a Raspberry Pi, but a Raspberry Pi may not be powerful enough to run a facial recognition or object recognition algorithm in time to support the operator. So there's lots of different ways to bring these technologies to the edge. But again, you want it as close to the objective as possible with the maximum amount of compute, minimum amount of power usage with the maximum results.
And one thing you'll notice when you read through the BAA are their export controls are extremely high, because this technology that's developed in America is going to be used for American warfighters. Do not want that technology getting out, even though there are opportunities for trusted allies and some of their technologies to be integrated in these systems. So just keep that in mind. Know your supply chain. Know where everything, every part, every component, every semiconductor and microelectronic in your device and your technology is made, because that absolutely matters. So we're going to look at another, I'll go back, we'll look at another subgroup, and then we'll move on and talk a little bit more about the industry day. So human performance and training, we've got a lot of capability here in North Carolina. We've got the North Carolina Center for Optimizing Military Performance. So I'm sure those folks will be highly interested in attending this session, talking to this program manager, and looking at everything from immersive technologies for learning to human performance optimization to innovative training and educational concepts. How do you rapidly teach new skills, new languages, new motor skills, new cognitive skills, especially in an age of mis and disinformation of Chat GPT, that's already changing the business landscape. That's going to have impacts and effects on the amount of information that's out there and the validity of that information. So Rob, you want to talk about the importance of the human performance in this as one of these subgroups for IWTSD?
Yeah, one of the things that you always hear special operations forces talk about is people are more important than hardware. So humans are more important than hardware is one of the critical pieces of special operations. So being able to enhance human performance, whether that be survivability, lethality, cognitive processing, anything that you could do to give those operators an advantage is something that IWTSD is looking for. So if you're in the human performance space, it doesn't always have to be a material solution. It could be a software solution, could be a hardware solution, but at the end of the day, what you want to do is improve survivability, lethality, and the ability for the operator to, for lack of a better term, operate in their current environment. So it could be something as simple as heat mitigation, could be something as complex as ballistic protection. But all of those things fall into human performance because it makes the organizations more lethal, more survivable, and it may just be like a better way of recovery, right? These guys are peak performance athletes that happen to be in uniform. And so being able to give them the best opportunity to recover after mission or pre-mission combat checks and everything else that they would do before they get out of the door, both those applications are very important to getting the operator onto the objective and surviving, you know. And then you look at all the other two the other two categories on this focus area. You have immersive learning technology. Everybody, I won't say everybody, but there are quite a few people that have Meta and other types of virtual and artificial intelligence, or not artificial intelligence, augmented reality and virtual reality training suites. So that augmented and virtual reality allows you to get those repetitions that you may not normally get on a day-to-day basis in a virtual space at low cost inside your facility. And then again, innovative education and training concepts. There's tons of people that are out there doing it, but are they focused on military problem sets? And that's the other question that we always have to ask is there a DoD application for this? If you think that you have any of these technologies and you're not sure, give us a call. We can point you in the right direction, or we can have a conversation about finding your use case, because that is the most important part of any of these submissions, is ensuring that you have the correct use case to get in the door when operating with these organizations.
Yeah, it's all about the end user and the job they have to complete. And that equates to the use case. So take a look through each one of these groups, from surveillance collection, operations, the TOS, the tactical offensive support, different weapon systems, sites, protection, survivability, different types of potentially bulletproof glass, lighter weight for up armoring vehicles, for example, forensic exploitation and identity operations, for doing sensitive site exploitation. Again, all in support of the irregular warfare mission. And Rob stated this, that this is different focus than your traditional cross-functional team, your traditional Army lab, Air Force lab, because the mission set is specific. Each one of those labs are set up to accomplish and to advance that service's S&T strategy and that service's modernization priorities. So it's great that you're digging in, supporting cross-functional teams in the Army, meeting their modernization priorities. Fantastic. Step out on the edge and take a look into mostly the special operations space here, as Rob's mentioned, and some of the irregular warfare tactics, techniques, procedures, and then the technologies that enable those TTPs. So we'll jump right into the industry day. We'll keep this moving along. There's a lot of information we can cover on this, but please do take a look at the industry day. I'm just going to jump right to the. I'm going to jump right to the important dates and times. The draft BAA is going to come out on March 1st, so we've got a couple more weeks for that. Again, we'll talk about the process where warfighters brought and pitched their gaps via a quad chart and basically a 12-line process, similar to what the ref used to use with the old 10-liner before they went away. Well, IWTSD is not going anywhere, because irregular warfare mission, the threat to the nation and our allies, is only increasing, and I dare say exponentially, even on the homeland with the open southern border, and other international activities. So expect that draft BAA on March 1st. You should take a look at it, really start to draft up your questions, and then take a trip up to Hilton Alexandria Mark Center on March 7th to attend the Industry Day. They're going to have two sessions, one session in the morning. They do breakouts with each one of the program groups, and then each one of those subgroups and the program managers. And then they'll have another session in the afternoon. So if you can only attend the morning or the afternoon, be there. I mean, you really should understand the special operation mission, this countering irregular warfare, the tactics that they need and the technology that they need, and then anticipate in late March. One thing I want to highlight about this Industry Day is they're taking notes on everything that you're saying. So when you sit down with a program manager, you're going to ask them questions. Hey, the draft BAA says you need this for your objective. This is the threshold. This is what you need minimally as a threshold. And the objective is that overall long distance, long term technological goal of where you're trying to go with that technology. You'll get a chance to say, hey, that's not even possible with today's technology, or quantum computers require an entire, room you can't put that quantum in the hands of the operator yet. However, we have an edge computing that can do this capability. So the point on that is they're learning from you. You'll have a chance to inform requirements. Again, the gap of the requirement was brought from the warfighter, interagency partner, border patrol agent, U.S. Marshal, and then you get a chance to kind of help flesh out that requirement in the BAA before it's finally produced. I think that's a phenomenal process. You don't see that from a lot of other agencies. You just get a BAA perform, right? Here you have a chance to actually be a part of the conversation and part of the request. And Rob, you want to talk us a little bit about the industry day and why these things are important to have discussions at the. In fact, there's going to be operators there. The sponsor of the actual problem is going to be on site. But why it's important to talk to these program offices and these operators who experience these problems.
Yeah, it goes back to connecting on the problem with the warfighter. So if you don't have that opportunity to do that, again, you're developing in the blind. And that's where, we always come up with you hear the phrase, and Bob and I have said it before, it's a solution looking for a problem. Well, here's your opportunity to actually talk to the person with the problem to see if your solution fits. If it does, then you already have a leg up. You can create a demand signal with those individuals and start developing a product that could potentially land and function inside special operations and eventually become a program of record either for special operations or for the Army writ large. Yes, it's going to take some time, but it always starts with that first conversation about, hey, what is the problem? If you can clearly define the problem, then you can more readily develop a solution that solves it. The other part of it is again, it goes back to what Bob said, is the warfighter touch point. So having that conversation with the warfighter, you can understand what their problem set is, and you can get some specificity. So like if you already have something that that works maybe for a commercial client, you can get the fit, form, and factor to make sure that it fits in the right helmet, or it has the right heads up display, or it fits in you may have to rework an app that you've already developed to work with ATAC or something to that effect. Those things all cost money, but if you're developing these things blind, you're taking more of a risk at your personal level or at your company's level rather than getting it in with the government. Say, for instance, there's a hackathon or there's an opportunity for you to present this technology and win some prize money on top of it. It may not come out of the industry day, but you can refine the requirements. So when you do attempt that hackathon, you have the best chance of winning. And oh, by the way, you're creating a demand signal because you're answering a problem that the organization needs.
All right, I'll go ahead and keep moving along here. So I'll talk really quick about this, the capability gap. When you receive an opportunity that DefTech sends out or a broad agency announcement, it all starts with a capability gap. In this case, as a niche R&D and rapid prototyping office that does true technology transition focused on irregular warfare, they deliver quick turns, 6 to 24 months on advanced and emerging technologies which then become capabilities in the hands of warfighters. Just a piece of tech until it's in the hands of warfighters and it solves a warfighting challenge. And it closes the capability gaps. So what they're asking for from agencies, this is basically that 12-liner in this case, and you're seeing this from the CMI2 folks and the Airborne Innovation Lab. Everyone wants access to the warfighter and wants warfighting problems. But those warfighting problems and challenges have to go through some sort of a curation process in order to turn it into a requirement, in order to turn it into a true problem statement. So here, all DoD, interagency, even international partners, I think that's fantastic. It's one of the only organizations that I'm seeing that has that direct outreach. And you could have some international partners with you right there at the meeting, which I anticipate you will, especially if they're one of the problem sponsors. So now you've opened doors to other markets, which I think is fantastic. So submit your capability gaps, and they're looking for those ideas. They'll help flesh out the problem. And that's what we do in DefTech as well. We ask you to look for the problem, submit your ideas, and like Rob said about the use case, we'll help you connect it to that use case, because the use case then turns into a requirement, or it's tied to an existing capability gap or modernization priority, and then it turns into a program line where it's funded in those things. But really simple process. This is for DoD interagency folks, not for industry, for submitting their capability gaps. But again, this already happened. This process starts happening immediately after this iteration. So again, last September, DoD and interagency folks got together and had this conversation, and the draft BAA is coming out on 1 March. So although you're signed up for sam.gov and you have your unique identifying, your UEI and all of that, entity identification, fantastic. Completely different process for IWTSD. You've got to sign up for their bids website. It's the only place. This is their chance to kind of authenticate you a little bit more to make sure you are who you say you are, as a U.S. entity, academic institution, or business. And then again, you will have opportunities to work with the end user or that problem sponsor to create these efficient solutions. So again, they're going to award contracts to vendors of all sizes. So whether you're a big business, small business, take a look, and they're going to match the right requirement, the right capability to the right requirement. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, but you can go into the bids, make sure you register. It's a real simple process. You can post questions. They're very, very responsive. And then you're also going to find the BAA here and additional resources. So Rob, you want to maybe talk just a little bit about the your experience with the bids and kind of why it's important to start registering for these things early?
Yeah, again, it goes back to anything that we recommend that you sign up for, you should sign up for. And the reason why I say that is because it's a passive way to do business development, number one. And it's also less work if you're on the mailing list, right? If you're on the mailing list, you're registered with your NACE code, you're registered with everything that you need. The information is going to come to you. So I knew about this IWTSD BAA coming out because I'm registered on the bid service and they sent it to me, right? So I was aware of it. We're talking about it today, but if you're registered, you're going to get this feedback consistently. And one of the best parts about IWTSD is they only send you information when an opportunity is opening up. It's not, hey, look, these people want a contract, or hey, this new opportunity opened. Unless you fit that opportunity, they're not going to send it to you. And so that's one of the best parts about it. And again, being able to communicate with the people in the community is very, very helpful. When you ask a question or you look at the resources, the information is there right in front of you. And if you look across the top, you got the website, you got the quick card for you to fill out, for you to submit your information, additional resources to look at, and then it talks about where the awards went. That's really all you need. And again, between Matchforce, Salesforce, uh, signing up for IWTSD, SAM.gov, if you can register for all of these things, put your information in, and passively receive opportunities, you're doing a lot better than sitting in front of your computer trying to research these opportunities every day. That is a full-time job. You could spend 8 hours a day just going through, SAM.gov, or just going through Air Force BAAs, and then you can spend another day on the Army BAAs. So if you're going through, Army, Navy, Air Force, Marine BAAs, Homeland Security, IWTSD, you literally could soak up a 40-hour work week just deep diving into each one of those opportunities to find out if you fit. However, if you register, and they will tell you if you make the cut or not, which makes it a little bit easier. So you put your information in the system, they'll review it, and they'll tell you, yes, this fits, or no, it doesn't. But please stay in the database because other opportunities could be coming, in the next quarter or the next year.
All right, as we start to wrap up, I'll just go over the business process real quick. One thing I think is really important is the researching phase, development and testing. A lot of the development and testing has been done right here in North Carolina at various facilities because of the access to warfighters. As they develop, they want to test. They want to have those agile and rapid touch points so that they can quickly iterate as needed and then maintain the evaluation. Does it meet the actual requirement and end user? The end user, that sponsor, is going to be there along the whole process because they're one of the key metrics for this irregular warfare solution. Does it solve my problem? So really neat process. We talked about the requirements meeting that already happened last September. There's now is going to be the actual meeting. The BAA will be launched, the draft on 1 March, and then the final on 7 March, 31 March after the 7 March Industry Day. That's all focused on the end users, the quad chart review. They get to take a look at your submission. Does it meet a need? They're also going to help review the white papers. They'll also be a part of the full proposal review as you go through this process. So again, it's a very quick turn, very quick process, and then the whole process starts all over again with the next requirements meeting. So you can go through and take a look at this, but I'll just highlight this for the industry day since that's our main focus here. Clarifications, refinements, any corrections determined necessary as a result of the industry day are then incorporated into the finalized requirements prior to generation of the broad agency announcement. I haven't seen any other government agency take this rapid, agile approach where you, industry, academia, are a part of that broad agency announcement and your feedback matters. So you can take a look at the requirements. Usually a white paper is 12 pages. You're going to have quad charts. Again, they've got a format. Quad chart is 1 page, highlighting notable attributes of your proposed response for the requirement, estimates, cost, and schedule, all of those things. This is why you see DefTech uses the TIDE program and why we have a quad chart and we initiate with a 1-page white paper to get you focused, positioned, and postured for these rapidly emerging requirements that come out. And then the full proposals, that's all discussed in the BAA. When it's accepted for a contract award, project initiation begins, and then it's a roller coaster because it's fast paced because they have from 6 to 24 months to develop a real technology or capability into the hands of warfighters to solve that challenge. So if you're up for the challenge, take a look, join in the we'll keep you informed on the draft BAA, probably at the coffee calls, but be prepared to attend 7 March in Arlington. Be prepared to attend the IWTSD Industry Day to learn more about their regular warfare requirements. That's it for me, Rob. If you want to wrap us up, we'll call it.
Yeah, so again, IWTSD, the BAA is out. Dive into the website. Again, Bob and I only hit the wave tops just because we could spend the whole day talking about this, and we would rather have a personal conversation with you rather than talking it out in broad general terms. Like, we'd rather be more specific, and in order for us to get specific on use cases and technologies that we are looking at, we need to talk to you about it. So do not be afraid to reach out to your DefTech team. We will definitely have the conversation with you, and more than likely that call will either generate some business opportunities, because we may have some people that you can talk to in our network that could be helpful to you. But even if we don't, the best part of it is communicating with people that are vested in supporting you. And if you're in the state of North Carolina, your tax dollars are paying for our employment. So take advantage of this resource that's right here in front of you. We're local. We support people in the state. We support people out of the state. The bottom line is our goal is to get modern technology into the hands of warfighters sooner rather than later, and anything that we can do to support that mission is very, very important. But we'll close this out, and we'll talk to you guys next week. I'm Rob Robinson, along with Bob Burton from the North Carolina Defense Technology Transition Office, and this has been this week's episode of Defense Technology Talks, Federal Opportunities Update. We'll see you guys next time. Thanks. Thanks for listening to this week's episode of Defense Technology Talks, hosted by the North Carolina Defense Technology Transition Office, or DefTech. The full version of this presentation has been uploaded to our Mobilize platform. Mobilize is another free service that we provide to access more national security business and collaboration opportunities. You can also sign up for more information at deftech.nc.gov. Join us again soon for our next podcast coming to a platform near you.